Good evening and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show for you guys this evening. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So on the show tonight, we will be talking a little bit about Jadon Sancho. Obviously, there was a story coming out this afternoon that apparently Al Attifaq over in Saudi Arabia were looking to put in an offer for him. We will be talking a bit about that. We'll also be talking a bit about Donny van der Beek, who looks set to leave the club in favour of a move to Turkey. We've got a couple of other bits to talk about. We'll also talk about Mason Greenwood. There's some other stories coming out surrounding him. As always, do get involved in the comment section. Do let me know your thoughts on everything that we discussed today. And let's jump straight on into it. So let's start off with this Jadon Sancho story then. So for anybody who missed the show earlier on today, obviously Al Attifaq, which is the club that Steven Gerrard manages over in Saudi Arabia, they apparently were set to put in a bid for Jadon Sancho. It was going to be a loan offer, and we weren't sure on the rest of the details. Now, apparently this deal has broken down and Jadon Sancho will not be moving to Saudi Arabia. The story goes as follows. Manchester United were only prepared to let Jadon Sancho join Al Attifaq on loan if there was an obligation to buy for £50 million included in the deal. It goes on to say that the Saudi club could not afford that fee. I mean, I'm not really sure about that because we've seen the astronomical fees that Saudi Arabian clubs have been paying. So how would they not be able to pay the €50 million fee? The story then goes on to say that Jadon Sancho expressed an interest in moving to the Middle East. So Sancho clearly wanted the move, I guess, finance-wise. Even if they only paid him the same amount as what he's on at Manchester United, I believe in Saudi Arabia, the players keep 100% of their wages. They don't have to pay any taxes. So obviously, that makes a hell of a lot of difference, doesn't it? If you're being taxed, I don't know, 50% of your money in England, maybe more, and you go to Saudi Arabia and you get to keep 100% of it. And then David Ornstein came out and said Jadon Sancho isn't joining Saudi Pro League before the transfer deadline tonight. The 23-year-old is admired, but the move will not be happening. Same applies for Mohamed Salah. Interest in the 31-year-old remains for future, plus good relations between all parties. So there was obviously talks that did happen, but Manchester United obviously didn't get the deal over the line. Now, I want you to let me know in the comment section how you feel about this one. Do you think Manchester United should have let Jadon Sancho go? The story also goes on to say that Manchester United sources indicated earlier this summer that Jadon Sancho would be available and offers would be listened to in the region of £45 million, although they were not actively looking to sell him. Obviously, this was in the summer, and I do think that things have changed probably since the summer, obviously with this whole Erik ten Hag situation, which is unraveling at the moment. Now, the thing that we do need to mention at this point is apparently Jadon Sancho and Erik ten Hag have planned a meeting in the coming days to try and iron out the situation. Fabrizio Romano says Jadon Sancho is expected to discuss the situation with Erik ten Hag and the coaching staff soon. So we'll have to wait and see what happens as a result of that meeting. Obviously, I think that's going to be probably one of the most awkwardest meetings for both of those people. I mean, how do they come back from that? How does Jadon Sancho recover from this whole situation? I just think it's so difficult. And I just worry that even if they say, yes, okay, let's give you another chance, he's going to have to give more than 110% every time he trains, you know? He's going to have to literally be the hardest working player on that training pitch, because otherwise Erik ten Hag's just going to think in the back of his head, you were the one who wasn't training, I didn't select you, and then you called me out in the media. Like, it's going to be very difficult to repair that relationship. But let me know what you guys think. I really like Jadon Sancho. I said this in the summer. There was a lot of you in the chat who were really anti-Jadon. There was a lot of you who wanted him gone. A lot of you who said he's not good enough. And I stuck by him. I said, you know what? He's still only 23. He's got a lot of years left in him. You know, he's nowhere near his prime yet. I would say players are in their prime at 26, 27. And obviously there was clubs like Chelsea, Tottenham. There was multiple clubs interested in Jadon Sancho. And I said, unless they're going to give us the full 75 million we gave to Dortmund, I don't think it's a good move. But obviously the goalposts have changed in the last kind of week or so, haven't they? Obviously with this whole him speaking out to the press and all the rest of it. But I do want you guys to let me know how you feel about this situation. Are you happy he's staying? Do you think that it was the right decision? Do you think they should have let him go on loan? Let me know what your thoughts are. Obviously, if I'm looking at it from the other perspective, this is probably Jadon Sancho's biggest opportunity now, because, you know, Antony looks like he's probably going to be suspended. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but I've said to you that I think Antony will be suspended. He's obviously been suspended by the Brazilian national team. Greater Manchester Police are investigating him and the Brazilian authorities are investigating him. So it's only a matter of time before Manchester United probably suspend Antony, which means Jadon Sancho should be the first choice right winger. And that's his opportunity. He says he wants a run of games. He says he wants to start matches. I'm all for it. Give him a chance. Obviously, he isn't going to go now, so we have to make the best of the situation. Give him a chance in that first team. Obviously, if Anthony's not able to play. I know a lot of you will be screaming at your screen saying we should bring Pellistri in. You know, he should get the chance over Sancho. I get it, I do. But Erik ten Hag is the manager and he has to make it work. I know he's tried already, but I think this is the last chance. You know, this is the final strike. If it doesn't happen now with Sancho, then I'm 99% sure they'll try and get rid of him in January or the summer. But I do think he's still worth, you know, a last roll of the dice because there is definitely a player there. If he ever, you know, recreated the form that he had at Dortmund, he would be one of the best players in the Premier League, without fail. If you saw Jadon Sancho at Dortmund, he was an unbelievable player. And we've never seen that Jadon at Manchester United. Now, I don't know whether that was because he was playing alongside the best striker in world football, Erling Haaland. I don't know. You know, there's so many different factors. Maybe there was less pressure there. Maybe the media weren't as harsh to him. I honestly don't know. You never know what's going on inside a footballer's head. But let's have a look what you guys are saying in the comment section about Jadon. TSO says Jadon should leave. Jadon has blown it. He will be toxic. I hear you, mate. I do. I hear you. I understand. And I said this on the video earlier, right? That it's trust, isn't it? And he's lost the trust with a lot of you guys. And that's the most important thing, that if you don't trust your players and you don't think that they have going to give 110% for Manchester United every single game, then it's very difficult to re-earn that trust. And it will obviously be exactly the same for Erik ten Hag because, you know, for Erik ten Hag to put him in the squad and then for him to not, you know, track back, for him to not do what Erik ten Hag says, that must be very, very frustrating as a manager. And I understand why a lot of you in the chat are saying, you know, I want him gone. John T says Pellistri is hungry. Sancho is a waste of space because he can't be bothered. I mean, obviously that's very, very harsh, but like, I get it. I get your frustration. But the thing I want to remind you guys is, okay, Manchester United have this mean streak of, not mean, but this obsessive streak of bringing in players for ridiculous amounts of money who, let's be honest, Jadon Sancho was never worth 75 million, I don't think. You bring them in for a ridiculously inflated fee. You make them the highest paid player at the club, 350 grand a week, and then they don't do very well. And that just happens time and time again. And you do just have to keep asking ourselves, is this actually our recruitment policy that ends up resulting in these types of situations where we overpay for someone, we give them ridiculous wages, and then their just desire levels just drop. They're sat there like, I'm on 350 grand a week. Imagine that. 350 grand a week. That's like £1.5 million a month. That is ridiculous money. What do you have to work for? You know, and obviously when, you know, in older times you had players who'd play for the badge, you'd have people who love the club. I don't feel like Jadon Sancho loves Manchester United. Obviously, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I just don't really get that bond between the Manchester United fans and Sancho. Whereas, you know, people like Bruno, you can tell that he, every time he comes on the pitch, whether you think he's a good player or not is up to you. But Bruno, Lisandro Martinez, Casemiro, like all of these people know what it means to play for Manchester United. Rafael Varane, etc., etc. And I just don't think Jadon Sancho seems to. But that's my take on it. Let's see what else everyone else is saying. Perez says Jadon didn't care before. He will care less now. I get it, mate. I get it. I get your frustration. I totally understand. Carl says maybe Erik ten Hag doesn't want to sell him because he has mental issues like last year. Yeah, that is a really good point, Carl. And thank you for bringing that up. And I do want to bring that into the conversation. Obviously, we saw how the English press treated Dele Alli, right? For all of those years at Tottenham, after the falling out with Jose Mourinho, they put all of the blame on Dele Alli, right? They said he doesn't care, he doesn't try, he's lazy. Like all of these things were labelled on Dele Alli, which was very unfair. And we know that the English press are some of the most harsh and brutal ones in the world, if not the most brutal. They're awful, the English press, generally, aren't they? They're very brutal. They don't give anybody any slack. And then we saw what happened with Dele Alli, didn't we? He obviously did that interview with the overlap. And I think anybody, regardless of, you know, your footballing, who you support, like that literally just made you sad, didn't it? Watching Dele Alli speak to Gary Neville and understanding really what was going on inside of him. So that is something we have to be very, very careful about here. Obviously, mental health amongst men is something that, you know, me especially, I'll always endorse and something that I'm not afraid to talk about and I'm not shy away from it. I know he's a football player. I know that we pay him to play football, but these people are human and we do have to remember that. So for me, now that he's definitely staying, okay, that's fine. You need to get him back in the office. You need to have a good chat with him. You need to make him understand what the expectations are from Manchester United, okay? Give him one final chance. And if he doesn't do what Erik ten Hag wants this time, then obviously at that point you 100% need to get him gone, without a shadow of a doubt. But yeah, I would give him one more chance. But keep letting me know what you think about that one. Captain Jack Sparrow says, it's simple. Manchester United is a club that hated by most. That's why every media watching Manchester United spread negativity. The Sancho situation is nothing new in football, but media are making issues. Yeah, mate, I 100% agree with you. They've made this into the biggest situation in the world. And the reason why I said they need to get rid of him is because of how the media have portrayed this. It looks really weak on Erik ten Hag's part if he now just says, oh, it's fine, Jadon, come back. You know what I mean? It makes him look weak. He's meant to be this authoritarian figure who's, you know, he's made a brutal decision against Ronaldo. He got rid of David De Gea. He's been quite brutal, hasn't he, since he came in? If he just gives Jadon Sancho another chance, it does make him look weak amongst the rest of the team. But I just think he has to do that now. And I just hope that Jadon Sancho mentally is okay. And I hope there isn't more to this story that we don't know about. I think there is, to be honest. Obviously, I don't know. I'm just guessing. But I have, obviously, we know last season he took 3 months off to go to the Netherlands, didn't he, to sort himself out both mentally and physically. So I would not be surprised at all if there's something really, you know, he's going through a difficult time or something's going on behind the scenes. And we'll find out about it in the coming years for sure. But let me know what your thoughts are. Everybody who's just joined, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. It really helps the channel, so please get involved. I've just dropped a link in the chat to do that. Somebody says his wages are so high that there's no incentives anymore. I agree with that, and I think that fault is on the club. It's not on Jadon Sancho, you know? If they offer him 350 grand a week, he's not going to say, oh no, I'd rather have 100 and I'd rather earn my extra money. He's going to say, of course, I'll take the 350 grand a week. So all of that goes back to Ed Woodward, who was the CEO at the time. He is the person to blame in that sense. Malp says Sancho is the third highest player in the Premier League. I know, mate, it's mad, it is. But again, that's not his fault. That's the club's fault. If they knew he had a history of disciplinary actions, which they did, they knew that at Dortmund he had issues, at Manchester City had issues, why did they give him such a ridiculous amount of money? They should have said, we'll give you a base fee of 150. For every game you play, we'll give you an extra 50 grand, or whatever it might have been, you know? Yeah. Something really quickly as well. Obviously, this tweet came out on Monday, was it? Was it Monday? I can't remember exactly what day it was. It was either Sunday or Monday. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is this tweet is still there, and Jadon Sancho has pinned it on his Twitter feed. If you go on his Twitter feed now, Jadon Sancho literally has this comment that we're still talking about pinned at the top of his Twitter. That's why I think now maybe there is something more serious going on behind the scenes. And I don't mean something Erik ten Hag's done. I mean something related to his mental health or something that he feels he needs to address, because I think this whole media image that's been portrayed of him, that he's this bad person, that he's come out and he's, you know, being disrespectful to the manager and all the rest of it. Like, I almost don't want to believe that now. I do want to believe that there's something more sincere going on, something more, you know, sad going on behind the scenes, because that's how it feels a little bit like to me. But maybe I'm just being a bit you know, sympathetic. I don't know, but I just hope that he's all right. But let me know what your thoughts are on this whole situation. I'll read out a couple more of your points quickly. Bill says Erik ten Hag has already put his arm around him last season, but that didn't work, so he should be gone. Maybe 40 million would be right price to have let him go. Yeah, mate, I do agree with you generally that the best decision for everybody would be to let him go, but obviously that's not going to happen now. The Saudi Arabia window closes, I think, at 10 p.m. tonight. He's not going to go to Turkey. There's no way a Turkish club would pay him 350 grand a week. So we have him until January. Let's hope that he, you know, turns into this amazing player, because that's only going to benefit Manchester United. You know, we can all say, let's get rid of him, let's send him to the reserves. But Manchester United desperately need attacking players. We've lost Amad Diallo to injury. Mason Greenwood's obviously Mason Greenwood. He's out of the picture. Anthony, who knows? There's a cloud over his head. We've lost 3 wingers in the last... Well, Anthony not yet, but you know what I mean. We're in a bit of a difficult position in those areas. So, Sheriff says Sancho lacks winning mentality. I don't disagree with that, but again, I don't want to keep bringing it back to this. But again, that the blame there goes back to the recruitment staff. It goes back to Ed Woodward for not doing their due diligence in the first place, seeing that maybe he wasn't the right profile for Manchester United, and then not doing the deal. You know, so you can't really blame what's he called, Sancho, for that. Carl says it's time for Erik ten Hag to trust some youth players now in all of this chaos. Look at teams like Brighton, Nottingham, etc. They win games. Yes, we should aim higher, but the situation is what it is. Mate, I 100% agree with you. I 1,000% agree with you, because Manchester United is not the place where youth players come anymore. We saw Jude Bellingham come to Carrington before he went to Dortmund. He came and he said no. We saw Ollie tried to get Haaland. That didn't happen. There's been multiple examples of youth players. You know, Manchester United were about to sign Moises Caicedo. Ed Woodward said no. We've got this really bad history of either bringing in youth players and not developing them. You think Ahmad, you think Pellistri, you think there's countless other ones, right? Or the youth players are in the conversation. We either say no, we don't want them, and they go somewhere else and turn into the superstar, or they come and then they think maybe this isn't the right place for our development. You know, that's happened so many times at Manchester United, and we definitely need to change that. We definitely need to be a club where people think, like Cristiano Ronaldo did when he obviously moved from Portugal, met all those years ago. He came here knowing that Sir Alex Ferguson was going to turn him into this superstar. And at the moment, I think a lot of these young players don't think that. They think, right, I'm going to go to a Brighton, I'm going to go to a Dortmund, I might go to an Ajax, I'm going to go to one of these other stepping stone clubs. I'm going to turn into this world-class player, and then I will move to a Manchester City, to a Liverpool, to a Chelsea, to an Arsenal, whoever it might be. But yeah, I agree. I mean, even Arsenal, though, they've brought in Martinelli. They've got quite a few young players in their squad. Obviously, they've got, what's he called at centre-back? Gabriel and Saliba. I mean, Saliba's what, 22, 23? Martinelli, how old is he? 21, 22? Like, they've brought in a lot of young players and have been developing them. So Arsenal do it well. Manchester City do it well. Liverpool do it okay. You know, we just don't. Right, let's move on to the next story, though. Keep getting your questions in and your comments in. I will come back to the chat in a little bit. And do make sure to smash a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk a little bit about Donny van de Beek then. Another player who kind of backs up my point there. A player who came in with such high potential. Somebody who was one of the best players at Ajax under Erik ten Hag. Everybody came in and thought, this is going to be the player for Manchester United, right? He comes in, and I don't like using the word flop, but he hasn't lived up to expectation, has he? Now, the story coming out from Rob Dawson at ESPN this afternoon is that Manchester United are now willing to consider any offer for Donny van de Beek, with interest from Fenerbahce and Galatasaray. So, obviously, as I said, the Saudi Arabia window closes today at 10 p.m, whereas the Turkish league, I think it closes on the 17th. So we've got about another 10 days until the Turkish league closes. Now, I'm not sure what everybody thinks about this one, but for me, he definitely needs to go. Like, he's just another player that's come in and had his career ruined by Manchester United. I know everyone will say, well, whenever he played, he wasn't that great, and I get it, but how can a player go from being one of the best for Ajax, you know, in that really, really good Erik ten Hag team, playing good games in the Champions League and all the rest of it, come to Manchester United and just completely, you know, not live up to expectation? Is it because the Premier League is so much more difficult, or is it because Manchester United just isn't the right place for these players to nurture and to turn into the next big superstar? Let me know what you think about that one. Perez says, but the real question is, why is there so much drama at Manchester United? I don't know, mate. I don't know why there's so much drama here. It seems like we just attract the drama at the moment, doesn't it? Like, it's absolutely mad. The story then goes on to say that Manchester United are facing a race against time to offload him. But yeah, it looks like the Turkish clubs will be the most likely place for Donny van de Beek. He hasn't been included in the Champions League squad, so he's definitely gone. Obviously, he wasn't on the bench for any of the games so far, which is mad, you know. McTominay was ill. You think that Donny van de Beek would get the call up, but he doesn't. I think we had 2 or 3 goalkeepers on the bench that game. I think we had Altay Bayindir and maybe 2 other goalkeepers, and Donny van de Beek still didn't get a place. So yeah, it definitely is a sad situation for him. Obviously, I hope he goes somewhere else, and I hope he gets, has a good career. So yeah, Manchester Evening News also reporting that there is interest from Turkish clubs for Donny van de Beek, but he could yet stay at Manchester United until January, despite being left out of the Champions League squad. So let me know in the comments section, what would you do with Donny van de Beek? Do you think he should go on loan? Do you think we should sell him? It looks like the most likely option will be Donny van de Beek. Bill says, why didn't we go for Maddison instead of Mason Mount? You know what, mate? I do agree with you. Like, Mason Mount obviously hasn't lit up the Premier League yet, has he, since he's been here? Whereas you look at Maddison, he's been absolutely unbelievable since he's joined Tottenham. Unbelievable. I'd say he's been one of the best players in the Premier League. Obviously, we're only 4 games in, so things can change. But yeah, Maddison looks incredible, and I think he was even less money than what we paid for Mason Mount, wasn't he? How much did they pay for James Maddison? Was it about £40 million? I know it was less than what we paid for Mason Mount. They paid 46 million euros for him. mean, what's that in pounds? It can't be very much. Let me just double check for you. They paid £40 million for him, and we paid 55 million for Mason Mount. I mean, I will never understand that. I won't, and I'm sure he's on an absolute fraction of the money that than what's he called? I mean, Maddison wages. Let's have a look. Maddison wages, Tottenham. So he's on 170 grand a week at Tottenham. That's Maddison. Mason Mount, I think Mount's on 250 grand a week. So we're paying him. Yeah, he's on 250 grand a week, Mason Mount. We're paying about 100 grand a week more than what Maddison's getting at Tottenham, and we paid about £15 million more in transfer fees. I mean, that doesn't look particularly good, does it? Obviously, we're only 4 games into the season, though. Things can change very, very quickly. It's just unfortunate that Mason Mount got such an unfortunate injury so early into his career. Carl says, have Donny played where he used to play in Ajax? Do we use him wrong? We've tried him in all the different positions. We tried him as a number 6. We tried him as a more attacking midfielder. I think, you know what, right? The thing with Donny van de Beek, the thing with Sancho, the thing with all of these players, there are favourites at Manchester United. You know, Bruno Fernandes plays every game. Marcus Rashford plays every game. There's 2 or 3 players who, even if their form is terrible, they play every single game. Now, I do reckon it must be pretty difficult for people like Donny to break into that team. You know, they're sat on the bench and they're not getting opportunities. Sancho sat on the bench, not getting opportunities. I don't really understand it. Is it something in their contracts? Is it something that, you know, they have to legally do? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But there's a lot of people who've said, why is Rashford, not so much now, but, you know, at points a couple of seasons ago when he was being played every single game, no matter what, he would never be dropped. He'd never be taken off. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. Obviously, that's just a bit of a conspiracy, really. Right, let's move over to this story really, really quickly. Now, honestly, the circus of Manchester United just gets more and more bizarre by the day. So there's a story that's literally everywhere this afternoon, and the headline is, Manchester United's first women's team manager was convicted as a paedophile. What? This is coming out from James Ducker, multiple other journalists in the UK. Konopka was a guest at Old Trafford for a Women's Super League match last year, despite having served jail time for sexual offences. I mean, what is wrong with these people like Manchester United? Do they not understand what is, like, how did they do that? Yesterday we had Anthony. The day before that we had the Sancho thing. And then today we have that Manchester United have invited a convicted paedophile to the ground to watch matches. Like, what is going on behind that club? Who is making these decisions? So strange. Carl says, about the right wing, we can play Bruno, not optimal. And Mount there also when he's back. But I do feel we should bring in an under-21 player to play right wing. Yeah, that is something that is worth noting. And thank you for that comment. Obviously, Mason Mount can play as a right winger. So maybe we do see Mason Mount in that position next season, which I don't have any massive issue with. Obviously, if Anthony's gone, which he might be, and Jadon Sancho isn't being played, then maybe we'll have to see. People in the chat saying, what is Martinez's injury status? Yes, we can bring you the news on that. So obviously, Martinez went off with a foot injury against Arsenal. Now, apparently he's not going to be involved in the Argentinian game tonight, I think it is. But the Argentinian manager has spoken about Lisandro Martinez, and he has said it's not necessary that we risk him. In any case, if he's available, we'll evaluate whether to use him or not. At first, for tomorrow's match, it will be a little bit too rushed. We'll see for the second match. So they're going to give him a bit of a break tomorrow. They won't play him. Apparently, it was something to do with his foot. He has had scans over in Argentina, and he is apparently completely fine. So we'll have to wait and see. It also says that Lisandro Martinez suffered a big knock 2 to 3 days before the Arsenal game during a training session in the same area he had surgery on 2 months ago. And against Arsenal, he felt pain in the same area. But I don't know. Hopefully it's just a tiny little issue and it's not anything that's going to rule him out. Lisandro Martinez, we should have back for the Brighton game. And also Victor Lindelof is apparently, back to full fitness. Apparently he had some sort of sickness. He wasn't injured. Obviously he had to come off at half time, but apparently it was due to an injury. Right. Let's talk a little bit. Let's read out a couple of questions quickly, actually. Carl says, Victor Lindelof is 100% going to play for Sweden on Saturday. Well, that's positive, isn't it? Fred says Erik ten Hag's selection could be the reason behind the toxicity from the young players not getting a chance. Yeah, I do agree with you, mate. I don't think you can purely put that on Erik ten Hag, though. I think it's all of the managers we've had at Manchester United. And that's why I say Maybe there's something that is behind the scenes, like a hierarchy. Is there something in their contracts that says that, that they have to play these players? I don't know the answer to that. That's just a theory. But yeah, let me know what you think on that one. Irvin says, what is wrong with this generation? They got everything you can, and only thing you have to do is training and play a game or two per week. Yeah, mate, I don't know. Lindelof, we've just spoken about. Sharif says Sancho, Jones, Maguire all have similar issues, have nothing to prove because of heavy wages. I mean, yeah, they're successful footballers. They play for the biggest club in the world. They're on, astronomical amounts of money that most people don't probably earn anywhere close to in a year, and they earn that in a week. No wonder they don't think they need to prove themselves. Like, I get it. And that's all because of the people behind the scenes. I know Arsenal recently have been giving out new contracts, but a lot of Arsenal's contracts have been heavily incentivized. So there'll be a base fee. It'll be like Saka's on 150 grand a week, but for every goal, he'll get 50. For every assist, he'll get this. For every appearance, he'll get this. There's plenty of different things that you can do to incentivize your players to make it a little bit more, better and more convincing for them. Right, let's move on to this Greenwood story really, really quickly. Now, there's a story that came out. Let me have a look where it came out from. It came out yesterday, and it was ultimately saying that apparently Mason Greenwood's contract with Getafe has a break clause which will allow or can allow Manchester United to bring him back in January. Obviously, this is a potential. This isn't something that's 100% nailed on. Yeah, I don't know what to think about this situation. I just think that all of the press that's going on around Mason Greenwood at Getafe seems a little bit strange. Every single time I go on Twitter, I see Mason Greenwood now, literally. Is that a coincidence, me being a Manchester United fan? Have Manchester United said to Getafe, we'll loan him you, but we want you to make a massive big deal about it. And then they're going to be, checking all the optics, seeing what the fans are saying, see what the reaction's like. I'm sure Manchester United are doing that. And yeah, I think there is some sort of plan behind the scenes on them potentially bringing him back at some point. I would not be surprised at all, especially if we get new owners. But we'll have to wait and see. He says, so this is coming out from The Athletic. They say Manchester United insist they stand by their previous message that the club do not expect. So they say do not expect Mason Greenwood to represent the club again. They have the option to extend his 2025 contract by a further year should they wish to protect a resale value. So emphasize the word expect. Expect means think, maybe. It's not certain. It says they don't expect him to play for the club again, and that they might, extend his contract so they have him until 2026. Yeah, it's just mad, isn't it? Literally every single time you go on Twitter, it's literally just there. It's in your face. Like, it's crazy, isn't it? And obviously, I don't even follow Getafe on Twitter. I have no interest in Getafe, but every single time I open my Twitter feed, all I'm seeing is Mason Greenwood. And I'm sure anybody else who uses Twitter in this chat is probably getting the same things. But let me know how you feel about that situation. Do you think there is this potential that Manchester United are slowly trying to bring him back? Right, let's have a look. Carl says Getafe has said in news that Mason is innocent, just like you and me. He's not convicted for any crime by any court. Yeah, they did say that, didn't they? Alan says Greenwood to Real Madrid. I mean, that's probably not going to happen, mate, but yeah, I highly doubt it. Right, let's see where else we are. Do get your questions in as well. If anybody has any questions they want to ask, do get them in the chat now. And do make sure to smash a like on the video and do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Just a really quick reminder, actually, for anybody who is bored tonight. Denmark are playing this evening against San Marino. The kickoff's in about an hour's time, and we are expecting Rasmus Højlund to play in that game. And just a reminder as well, Rasmus Højlund is currently the joint top goal scorer in the Euro 2024 qualifiers. He's got 6 goals already. So I'm definitely going to be dipping in and out of the game tonight between Denmark and San Marino. I would suggest you guys go and have a little watch as well, or watch back the clips and see how Rasmus Højlund got on. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the show tomorrow as well. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a reminder of that because some of you might want to go and watch it, as we haven't really got to see much of him yet at Manchester United, have we? So yeah. And also Garnacho is expected to feature tonight against Ecuador in the World Cup qualifier. So if you are interested in watching any international football, there is some bits on tonight. Studio SBA says, at this point, new owners will be better than winning the Champions League. I agree with you, mate. I agree with you 100%. I think getting rid of these owners will completely change everything at Manchester United. It will change the mentality. It will change the mindset. It will change the recruitment. It will change the scouting. It will change literally everything. It really, really will. Comeback King says, we hope to get Paulinho in January. Yes, we obviously were heavily linked to Paulinho, weren't we, over the last couple of days from The Athletic. I don't know what will happen with that one. I would not be surprised at all if he goes to Bayern. There's a bit of breaking news coming out here from a couple of different outlets in Brazil, and it says Gabriela Cavalin's case against Antony isn't the first accusation made against him. A police report from May 2022 made from a previous partner also describes violent behaviour from Antony. The victim claimed to be physically assaulted by Antony and a woman in a car in Sao Paulo. She was admitted to hospital with bodily injuries and had her exams taken to the police station. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse, isn't it, with the Antony situation, isn't it? And I just fear that the more that it goes on, the more that it, you know, the book is left open, the more stories are going to come out. And I think now, maybe you think I'm being dramatic, but I think in the immediate future, we need to start planning for without Antony. And I'm sure that Erik ten Hag is doing that exactly now. You know, he can't be naive going into this situation. We've seen what happened with Mason Greenwood. Bill says, what's your thoughts on Dan Gore? I think there's quite a few good youth players that could break through over the next couple of years. I don't know whether Dan Gore will maybe have a breakout season this year. Obviously, he plays in the same position as Bruno, midfield, attacking midfield. Is he going to get game time? I'm not sure. I think Kobe Mainoo's the breakout one for this season. I really, really do. Cesar says, are you going to be watching the South American qualifiers tonight, bro? I think I'm just going to watch the Denmark game. I don't know if I'll watch any others, to be honest. I'll probably just watch Denmark, San Marino, because I want to see Rasmus Højlund. M Forever says, is United playing it smart and keeping Sancho till January to maintain the squad? I mean, yeah, that is probably what's going on. I think they've got to be very, very careful what they do, especially until they know what's going on with Antony. Irvin says, do you think both parties who is involved in the sale of the club gets update from time to time, or it's completely silent around the sale? Mate, I have absolutely no idea. And you know what? I don't think any of the press have any idea either. I think everybody's in the dark about this whole takeover situation. I think it's a complete grey area. I think we've just got to wait until the official announcement comes, personally. Andrew says, hello, Kieran from Bedminster. Hope you're good, mate. Hope you're enjoying this horribly sweaty day here in the UK. Paul says, will Mason be ready to face Mason Mount be ready to face Brighton? I don't think so, mate. I think he's going to be back after the Champions League game. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who has watched the show this evening. I will, of course, be back at 8 a.m. UK time tomorrow for your morning show. If anything breaks between now and tomorrow, I will, of course, go live. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell, and do smash a like on the video. I'll catch you guys all later.